Good morning, IAFF. It's good to be here. I'm proud to be here, and I want to start, before I say anything else, I want to tell you I'm bringing greetings to you from my father, Paul Sarbanes. He turned 80 on Super Bowl Sunday. Go Ravens. They gave him a nice present, but one of his greatest sources of pride was a relationship that he had with this union over so many years. He was always there for you, and he passed that on to me, and I'm proud to stand with you as well. And I want to salute you for everything that you do every single day. I want to salute your strong leadership, Harold Shapeberger, all the leadership of the union, Kevin O'Connor, who's our contact there in Maryland. And we have a very strong delegation in Maryland that supports your agenda and your program and supports you. I came by because I wanted to talk briefly about H.R. 1141, which is a bill I'm privileged to have reintroduced in this session. Some of you out there may recall back before 1985, firefighters could not trade shifts. So you could have two firefighters and they wanted to switch time, they wanted to trade time because one of them needed to go to a birthday party or attend to some other personal matter, but at the time it was too complicated to pull that off. It created all sorts of issues and overtime concerns, and there was a lot of pushback that prevented that from happening. But in 1985, they amended the Fair Labor Standards Act to make it possible to do that. So a lot of you now have the ability to do that. The problem is that your federal colleagues still can't do that because they're not covered under the Fair Labor Standards Act. So we have to have special legislation that fixes that problem. So we've introduced the bill called the Federal Firefighters Flexibility and Fairness Act, which would allow federal firefighters to trade time, to trade shifts in order to have that accommodation. It's the only fair thing that we can do. This bill, by the way, passed the 111th Congress, and then it got stopped in the Senate by Tom Coburn, who raised some concerns. Then in the 112th, the majority, unfortunately at that time, the 112th, didn't see fit to kind of push it through. They raised some objections. So now we've reintroduced it in the 113th. And I'm very hopeful that we can get this through with the support of the union and others, and then we'll get it to the Senate and get it done. It's a bipartisan bill because people recognize that it's a matter of fundamental fairness. And while I'm talking about your federal colleagues, let me talk a second about, and I heard Harold's speech from yesterday, so I heard him talking about this too. Let me talk about the impact that the way we're budgeting in Washington these days is having on the federal workforce and on your federal colleagues and on these basic services that we're trying to deliver to the country. We're not doing things properly up here. You heard sequestration was called dumb. Everybody called it dumb. But in the next few days, what's going to happen is a lot of people who think sequestration is dumb are going to be forced to vote to extend sequestration through the end of this fiscal year, through the end of September, in order to not do something that's even dumber, which is shutting down the government. There used to be a movie called Dumb and Dumber about 15 years ago. Well, it's playing again at your local theaters here on Capitol Hill. It's the way we're doing budgeting. Except it's not a comedy anymore, it's a horror movie. It's not the way we should be doing business up here. Lurching from one budget crisis to the next, and the impact falls on ordinary, hardworking families out there across the country. Somebody said to me the other day, they said, "You all aren't getting anything done up there." And I said, I get that, but I'll tell you something that's even worse. Not only are we not getting things done, we're getting used to not getting things done. That's the danger. There's a mentality creeping in where you leave town without having a transportation bill. You leave town without having a farm bill. You leave town without reauthorizing the FAA so planes can fly. Before you know it, we'll be conducting business the way a third world country operates. That's no way to run a serious country. And you understand it. And when we operate that way, the impact falls again on you, your families, your communities, working people all across this country. It's not right. Now, when people get up here and they thank you for what you do, they can be thanking you for two different things. They can be thanking you first and foremost because you put your lives on the line every single day. You risk your lives for the safety of our families and the broader community. And when you think about it that way, our obligation to provide you with the grants and the support and the services and the equipment and resources is really a moral obligation. If you're going to go and put your lives on the line, the broader community has a moral obligation to provide that support. And on that score, you get very broad bipartisan support, because who's going to argue with that? And I thank you for that. But I thank you for something else, and that is for standing up for the rights of working people. And that's where some people who get up here and praise you for running into a burning building get a little more uncomfortable when we get to the discussion about collective bargaining and the rights of working people and standing up for unions in this country. But I want to thank you for that part of what you do also, because that's what makes the difference for the broader community, for the broader society. Everybody talks about how we have to rebuild America, rebuild the country, make it strong again by investing in our infrastructure, our physical infrastructure, yes, but just as importantly, our human infrastructure, in human resources, investing in people. And if you look at history, the history of this country, the middle class grows when unions and labor and collective bargaining rights are strong in this country. And when labor is weakened, the middle class shrinks. And you understand that fight. So as individuals, we need to thank you for what you do as individuals, the personal sacrifice you make and your families make. But we also have to thank you for the collective that you represent, because you stand as a union for the rights of working people in this country. So I want to thank you for both of those commitments. Keep up the great work. I and others in Congress will stand with you and this great union. Thank you very much.